his name was Steve Campbell, and we met in high school in the ninth grade. Well, we met at church, really. We went steady, which is what you did back in the day.
Yeah.
So, right after we graduated, he joined the Marines. And, there was a draft. He knew that he would be drafted and have to go to Vietnam because he loved flying and he was taking flying lessons at the time. So the Marine Corps said, we can get you in the air. And he went to basic training. We got married December 27th. And he was stationed in Millington, Tennessee. Then he got transferred to California, and we lived in Santa Ana. So he got his orders to go to Vietnam in April, and I was going to stay with my parents while he was in Vietnam. I got to see him one more time before he went. And, while I was in Texas, I had a job in a wholesale grocery office. So one day in June, I heard somebody come in. I looked up, and there was my dad. And, at first it was just like, well, Dad, what are you doing here? And then I saw he was with a man in uniform, and I knew that something had happened to Steve. They took me home and sat on the couch and told me what his injuries were, and that that both of his lungs had collapsed, and there were a few broken bones, but he was still alive, and he was on a hospital ship, off the coast of Vietnam. Then on June 10th, this is a week after he was shot down. Two uniformed men came to the house and told us that he had died. I would get letters from him saying, I had to fire my gun today. I hope I didn't hit anybody. I mean, he was 20. And that's, you just take young, innocent guys and turn them into killers. And they don't want to be killers. They brought his body back to the airport, and Steve's whole family was going to meet him, and I wouldn't go. I said, that's not Steve. What they're bringing back is not Steve. Steve is gone. I didn't want a military funeral, but his family did. And so we had the military funeral with the, 21 gun salute. It was like, military, I'm done with you. I don't want to have anything more to do with it. I walked away and put my hand on the coffin and said, goodbye, baby. And then just, spent the rest of the summer kind of trying to pull it together. And my sister was a student radical in college at the time. She was in Chicago at an SDS, Students for Democratic Society conference. And so when she found out and told her friends at the conference, they raised money. I think this is making me so emotional because my sister died last year, just almost exactly a year ago. Anyway, so her friends and comrades in the movement flew her home, and she spent the entire summer with me, just doing whatever we wanted to do.
Has the death of your husband changed your views of Vietnam at this point? Because we're still in Vietnam at this point too, and it's getting worse.
Yeah, it did. I didn't blame the Vietnamese people because we shouldn't have been there anyway. And if anything, I blamed, Richard Nixon and U.S. policy. And my sister was into anti-war movement and sort of anti-capitalist kinds of things. She was very political and very active. And I started going to some of the anti-war demonstrations, and I went to several meetings of Vietnam veterans against the war, and we had demonstrations with the blacks on campus who were near, because black liberation, women's liberation, Chicano liberation, gay liberation, it was all happening then. It was a really huge cultural change. And I'm glad that I got involved in it. It gave me a way of understanding the world that I would not have had if I hadn't been exposed to these people and these ideas.
What was the word that you told me earlier that you said that you call yourself?
A revolutionary?
Yes. Yes.
Well, because, all my students used to say, "Oh, Miss Monroe, you were a hippie." And I said, "No, I wasn't a hippie. I was a revolutionary. I was going to change the world."
And you sport that name well, don't you?
Yes,
yeah.
I do.